Senator, good morning to you. It is good to
morning.
see you. How do we move forward here? I want to get your take on China for sure. And of course, the big news of the day of this squelching of conservative conversation with the latest move out of Apple. But first, let's discuss that horrible breach on our democracy of the breach of the Capitol on Wednesday. Your reaction?
It's disgusting. It's unpatriotic. It runs counter to everything we stand for. It's unfortunate that there are, I can't give you an assessment of every single person that went in there, but it's clear now by the arrests that are being made and what groups are saying online that QAnon people were involved, this ridiculous conspiracy. Then you've got, white supremacists in there. You've got members of the Proud Boys. So it's a rogues gallery of groups. And who thought that they were going to storm the Capitol, they were going to apprehend the vice president and members of Congress and have them pay the ultimate price, as they called it. I mean, string them up, they would say. I mean, I've had people at protests here in Florida calling for me to be strung up and others. So it's completely unacceptable. 90% of the country or more would agree with what I just said. The overwhelming majority of people who voted for Donald Trump would agree with everything I just said. And it was a moment where we could sort of say, this is enough, guys. I mean, our country can't keep doing these kinds of things and unify the country. That's not what's happened, unfortunately. The left has decided this is an opportunity to destroy the right. So if you ever voted for Donald Trump, if you ever supported anything he did, you are just as guilty as the people who went into that Capitol. And this is also an opportunity for them to now go and put pressure on social media companies to literally not just erase the president, erase everybody. We're now living in a country where 4 or 5 companies, unelected, unaccountable, have the power, a monopoly power to decide we're going to wipe people out. We're going to just erase them from any sort of digital platform, whether it's selling things and the like. Even if you don't like Donald Trump, that should be concerning that they have that power. It's also very cynical, by the way, okay? Facebook, Twitter, these are not moral champions here. The reason why these guys are doing it is because the Democrats are about to take power, and they view this as a way to get on their good side to avoid any sort of restrictions or any sort of laws being passed that hurt them. So it's unfortunate that instead of unifying us right now, Biden and the Democrats have chosen to use this as an opportunity to talk about ridiculous things like let's impeach a president who isn't going to be even in office in about 9 days.
Right. Well, look, I mean, you've got Nancy Pelosi saying everything is on the table, Mitch McConnell drawing up the articles of impeachment, and they are saying that the president incited all of this. We have these pictures from earlier this year when the president was trying to push for law and order in the chop zone in Seattle, when protesters and people raiding the area were throwing Molotov cocktails at police and bricks through the windows of small business, forcing small business to board up.
Yeah, so 2 things I would say. Number 1 is no person in the United States of America, or in the world for that matter, nobody should be willing to do anything like what we just saw happen on Wednesday on behalf of another human being. Period. End of story. I don't care how much you may agree with them or what it is. No one should be. I mean, we're seeing these disturbing quotes in the newspaper from people who are saying, I'm willing to die for Donald Trump. I'm willing to die. That just shouldn't exist. OK, that's not normal. And that's not good. Now, I'm not going to say anything about incitement. Look, I don't want to keep stoking that fire. I will say, look, the president does bear some responsibility here, and that needs to be looked at. We have for too long indulged some of these groups as part of the conservative movement. These are not conservatives. These are wackos. These are nut jobs. Now, 99% of the people that were at that protest did not storm that Capitol. They have strong feelings about the election. They support the president, and they were not a part of it. But there is this element, very small, but enough people to create a tremendous amount of damage and put a lot of people in danger. And we should be rejecting that group, not after the fact, but before. And to the extent anyone has indulged that, I think that's important to recognize and point to and say, look, this is why we have to watch what we say and who we allow into the movement, because these are the people that can do terrible things. And they may be incited to do things by words that maybe you didn't intend to be read that way, but they did. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what they thought you meant. And when you tell them, go march down there, I'm going to march with you, 99% of people would hear that and understand that what that means is not literally go down there and storm the Capitol. But if 1% or half of 1% read differently, it could get dangerous.
Yeah. What does this upcoming week look like? We're expecting that we will see articles of impeachment. Does this go to trial? And how does that play out? Because you just said it's only 9 days until Joe Biden is inaugurated. The president will no
Yeah.
longer be a sitting president. Can you impeach a past president?
You can. And so if the House passes articles of impeachment, the Senate has no choice but to have a trial. We don't have the option of not having a trial. And at that point, that's what would happen. But I want everybody to think about what that means, okay? So number one, Joe Biden ran as a guy he's going to unify the country, and he's going to spend the first couple weeks of his presidency not confirming his nominees, not dealing with a pandemic. For the first couple weeks of his presidency is going to be about removing a president that's already not in office. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. So let's stoke up more division in this country. Let's stoke up more fights. Let's create more grievances so that can rally people. Instead of saying everybody agrees, this is, we've hit rock bottom. We saw what happened Wednesday. This is the point where everybody, if that did not cause us as a country to wake up and say, guys, we all need to take a deep breath here. I mean, look what we're turning into. I don't know what will. Instead of saying that to everybody, what's going to be the notion? Let's keep fighting this Trump stuff. Let's have an impeachment for someone who's not even in office anymore.
Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley under pressure last week. Senator Cruz was on this program with an idea to simply propose a 10-day emergency commission to investigate why 70% of Trump supporters believe that the election was rigged, believe that there were irregularities. Now he's facing calls to resign. Senator Hawley facing calls to resign. Your reaction?
Well, he's facing calls to resign from far left liberals who are always calling on Republicans to resign or something like that. I mean, and from newspaper editorial boards. I mean, these guys don't like us. It's clear and simple. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. They're going to write something about you that they would never write about people on the other side. It is my personal belief that after what had happened that day, the point had been made about the elections and that there shouldn't have been any further objections at that point. They weren't going to pass, and everybody knew that. So the point, if this was really being done more than anything else, because these folks wanted to make the point, they wanted this issue to be discussed. They wanted to leave it on the record so we would take election security seriously. But when you've had people already died, when you've had everything that's happened, this is an opportunity to say, okay, we've made it. The point's been made already. There's no need to continue this after what happened today. Let's shut this down and get everybody home as soon as possible. That was my view. That's not the choice that they made. And so, that's certainly their right as a senator. I don't think that's a resignable offense. Again, it's just part of the same sort of overreach.
A word on China before we go, because what we're feeling this morning feels awfully like communist China, where you are having a complete crushing of one viewpoint, conservative conversation, with Apple banning Parler from the App Store, Google and Instagram making the same decision yesterday, all on the same day that President Trump was banned from Twitter. Your reaction to what's happening in America as China, as we know, is rising aggressively with the motive of taking over the #1 spot as far as being a superpower in the world today?
Well, just know this. We could be talking this morning about how all of us agree that this is terrible. And what is it that got into people's heads? What are the things that these people believe in, conspiracy-wise and others, that have caused them to do these sorts of actions that we all reject? And instead, what we're now is engaging in a new front about who should be censored or not by 5 companies who no one's elected and have the power to wipe you out. And as far as China's concerned, their fundamental argument is democracy doesn't work. It's messy. It's chaotic. It creates all kinds of problems. Can you think of a better talking point for them? Can you think of a better support for that argument than what we saw on Wednesday? They will play those images over and over again to their own people, to people in Hong Kong, everywhere. And they will say, you want democracy? That's what democracy looks like. What you need is order and stability, which you can only get through one party totalitarianism. I mean, we're helping them. Simple as that. And they're laughing at us. I mean, they're basically saying America's in decline. They're a mess. China is going to be the future. So we did tremendous damage to ourselves. And it's ironic that a lot of the people that are out there saying this is because China rigged the election and China is going to take over everything have just done them a huge favor.
Well, I think it's quite interesting that Apple did not ban TikTok. You can still download TikTok on the Apple App Store, but you can't download Parler. And by the way, why is no one focused on Jack Ma? Where is Jack Ma? The billionaire founder of Alibaba vanishes after he makes critical remarks about the Chinese Communist Party. No one has seen Jack Ma.
Well, what's happened to him is that his company has too much power. And the Chinese Communist Party is not going to allow any company in China or anywhere to have power that in any way rivals theirs. And so they're going to eliminate him. I mean, that's what totalitarian regimes do.